Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you. I understand we have a global audience today tuned in to this webinar. This webinar is jointly hosted by ET Legal World and SimpleO.ai. It is my pleasure to moderate and host the panel with four very distinguished industry colleagues from the legal fraternity. Legal tech, especially using AI, has piqued interest globally and has brought many fresh ideas and new approaches of building legal tech products. While the scope and depth of legal tech is huge, we'll limit our discussions today to topics which are of interest to an enterprise or business and under the purview of a general counsel or chief legal officer or sometimes a CFO. We'll also focus on the AI CLM space and try to understand the developments there. In my experience of more than 3 decades, I've seen legal departments of most enterprises overworked and almost always under tremendous timeline pressure to meet or excel at their respective business goals. Many technology solutions have been attempted globally over the last few decades to address the issue, yet there has been limited success. So this time around, can AI be a true differentiator or is it still a hype? How do we know what ROI to expect and how to quantify them? Rightly so, we have a lot of skepticism around it because of the unknown. We have an hour today with the help of our distinguished panelists. Let's dive into it, peel the layers at a time, and understand the problem. And hopefully, we'll not just talk at 30,000 feet level, but we'll be able to give you a set of points to understand how to measure ROI and the set of questions to evaluate any solution that you're deploying in your enterprise. With that, let me quickly introduce the panelist. Let me start with K. Satish Kumar. He is an award-winning lawyer, keynote speaker, author of multiple articles, and Group Chief Legal Officer of Intellect Design Arena Limited. Among the many awards he has received, the coveted are GC Powerlist India 2023 by Legal 500, General Counsel of the Year by Forbes India, General Counsel of the Year 2023 by India Business Law Journal, Top 100 General Counsel 2022 by Business World Legal, just to name a few. Satish likes to volunteer his time and is actively involved in many pro bono activities through Chennai Lawyers. Welcome, Satish, to the panel.
Thank you.
My next panelist is another distinguished member of the legal fraternity. She is Soumya Agrawal. She is another award-winning general counsel, boasting an impressive career spanning over 2 decades. Her expertise lies in the intricacies of structuring and negotiating private equity fundraise, transactions, acquisitions, mergers, and integrations, coupled with a profound understanding of restructuring, global compliance management, IP, and data privacy matters. Additionally, she is recognized for a pivotal role in formulating responsible AI policies and steering board and governance matters. She is currently serving as the Group General Counsel and Company Secretary for Fractal Analytics. Soumya has rich multicultural experience, includes working across the US, Europe, Australia, Middle East, Asia, China, and Canada. Beyond her legal acumen, she is an avid meditator and a certified heartfulness meditation trainer. My next panelist that I want to introduce is Abhishek Jemawat. He is an all-round legal professional, having an experience of more than a decade in handling complex legal compliance, litigation, IP, and regulatory issues successfully. His experience in diversified sectors such as manufacturing, supply chain services, e-commerce, and his current occupation in quick commerce. Abhishek currently holds the position of Vice President Legal and Compliance at Zepto. If you have seen the 10 minutes delivery, that's Zepto. And Abhishek possesses a diverse range of interest in sports, and he is very interested in speed. So you will see a lot of posts from him on Jasprit Bumrah, and his favorite sport is cricket, you know, from there. Welcome, Abhishek, as the panelist to this session.
Thank you, God.
My last but not the least guest is Rajiv Malik. He is another seasoned legal professional with expertise in multiple facets, including cyber laws, arbitration, commercial disputes, and IPR. Serving as the general counsel of LG Electronics, Noida Manufacturing, he has been recognized for his legal acumen and leadership. Rajiv is a thought leader, often discussing topics like ADR, general AI, leadership, and data privacy. He is a featured speaker at various esteemed events, sharing insights on data privacy laws, AI impact on copyright, and anti counterfeiting action in India. Rajiv's experience spans LG Electronics with roles in legal affairs, management, contract handling, litigation, and compliance. Rajiv is another practicing Sahaj Yoga veteran for the last 25 years and is very deeply involved in meditation technique, connecting human with the divine. So we have a lot of meditators with this panel as of today. You know. So with that, let me invite all the panelists and open the floor. Um, as you know, I'd like to ask the first question to Abhishek. Abhishek, legal departments in most of the corporates are overworked. Why do you think that is happening, and what are the possible problems and solutions that you envision? And we'll try to use the next 3 minutes for your answer.
Thanks, Gautam, and good morning, everyone, for joining the most important session. I think before starting my perspective, I would just like to share a few of the facts, from Harvard Law School and few other organizations as well. So I have a report which states that 78% of the organizations today fail to track their contractual obligations. Then we have EY Law School, who also did research in 2020, which stated that 90% of the organization pays to locate contracts, right? You don't maintain the repository and you are just running behind everyone to locate the contracts. So these are the two important data points with which I want to start my perspective. The problems per se, the current CLM tools which we use and which may not be having AI features, is that they lack scalability. You know, in terms of managing volume, in terms of managing complex contracts, more often than not, we face a lot of issues with the existing CLM tools. Then you would be appreciating that there are a host of regulatory changes which keep on happening, and existing CLM tools need to constantly evolve. If you don't have AI, or you're not, your solutions provider is not being able to scale that up, maybe in few weeks of the changes, then there's a huge problem, because you are just using archaic laws, and your deliveries will suffer, right? So those are the few problems. And the third and the most important problem which we face is that the current CLM tools which we are using lack the capabilities of contract analysis. For example, they will help you in standardizing the templates. If it is a vendor draft, then probably they will say that indemnity clause is different from what is there in your standard draft. But will my CLM tool be able to analyze the language which is being used by a vendor? Maybe the vendor is also trying to communicate the same thing in a different way. So the contract analysis is also something which is a problem which we face in the CLM tools. So I think I would now like to pass on this to my fellow panelists as well, who can also share their perspective in terms of the problems which they are facing in the current way of handling.
Wonderful. Thank you, Abhishek. Let me ask the next question to Rajiv. Rajiv handles multitude of contracts for Motorola. Rajiv, what are the specific problems you are facing? And I understand you have a custom tool that you're using in your organization. What are the problems? What are the ROI you expect from the tools? And what is your wish list?
Yeah, hi Gautam. I hope this question is addressed to me.
Yes. Hi, Rajiv. Yes.
Yes, actually, you wrongly used the word Motorola, so that's why I just
Oh, okay.
wondering.
LG. Sorry. Yeah.
So I am the GC of LG Electronics,
Yes.
and the traditional in handling the traditional way of dealing with the contracts is having the multiple problems. That although we are having the CRM system which is in place, but still it's not that aligned with our goals. For example, the contract life cycle involves saving important data such as dates of renewal of agreement, termination, important compliance dates, right? That things has to be managed manually or in Excel sheets. So this
Right.
leads to inefficiency and makes the entire cycle of contract management more prone to human errors and can cause costly mistakes as missing deadlines. Right. Of course, traditional method is more time consuming as we all know, as that has to be managed manually. Then, for example, that also lacks the insight in the insight. For example, traditional method will never provide that how many contracts have a particular clause, maybe indemnity or limitation of liability, how many of them did not get renewed in a particular time period, etc. Right. So basically, the current system, or we can say the traditional, is more dependent upon the human resources. But as the volumes scaled up, the efficiency might decrease. Right. So, and then there is another challenge is the lack of the central repository system, which Abhishek was just talking, that there lacks. The multiple stakeholders are there and they are keeping their contracts separately. There is no one place where the contracts can be kept or can be monitored in a way. Although I'm not talking about my industry, but I have seen even in traditional system, we are having a software where we are trying to keep things in record with the under the legal purview, but still there are challenges in that. Yeah, Gautam.
Absolutely. No, very, very, very good points. And I've talked to a lot of GCs, and this resonate across the board. How the contracts are managed, and for the most part, the post contract management between enterprises is extremely poor. Is my experience. And manual. When I say poor, it's manual and prone to a lot of errors. But I would love to hear the panelist Soumya's view as well. You know as to what she experiences in her organization. Plus, if Soumya, if you can touch on CLM, especially in the space of transaction documents, because you have a lot of experience in term sheets and SHAs.
Yeah.
How do you handle um, that in that kind of domain?
Yeah. Hi, Gautam. Hi, hello, everyone. So thanks for posing that question. I think the obligation management part that you are talking about is very, very critical. And what we see is even if you have a CLM tool, it doesn't really define who is the owner of a particular compliance, and does it really throw and make them responsible to report back the compliances whether they have done it or not. So the traditional CLM tools, yes, they are maybe listing down what are the obligations, but they're not tagged to the people who are responsible within the organization, say like HR, finance, IT, admin, so on and so forth, to see that they comply with that and then report back into the system so that the compliance report of that contracts is automatically generated and provided to the organization and the senior management. And also, this becomes very critical during the audits, which we have seen as a serious problem. Whenever there is an audit that is happening, we struggle to have a person then being identified, seeing that they are complying with, and then reporting back to the organization. So this is a big area of concern that we have seen whenever there is a CLM tool. And while obligations might be there listed, but the management is happening outside the tool. So something is
Absolutely.
not a foolproof 360-degree kind of a solution, which kind of completely takes care of end-to-end problem statement. Coming to your point around transactions, I think the transactions, the term sheets, what we have seen is that while there are tools that are available in the market, they just are just a dumping ground for all the documents to be stored. Any analysis is not being thrown out of those documents which are being put in the data centers, and which doesn't really fasten the speed of due diligence. I think in any transaction, as you would understand, due diligence really becomes really important, and is the key fundamental basis which all the transaction documents are written and reviewed and negotiated. The whole problem around this data flow and data management is the process itself is a very lengthy one. And if we use AI in the due diligence process, it will fastens the entire closure of the deal, which is currently not happening. Hopefully, someone will really have a solution in around it, which fastens the complete closure of transactions, especially
Absolutely.
the due diligence.
Absolutely. And these are some very good points. We'll actually cover it again in the next section, trying to solve them. I'm just trying to collect all the points right now. There is one question I wanted to ask Satish. If we touched across contract intelligence, contracts analytics, and audit. If you can figure out and elaborate on that as to how does your organization deal with this in terms of the workflows that you follow within the organization.
Thank you, Gautam, and good afternoon to everyone. And let me start off with a caveat that the views expressed here are my personal and is not reflected by the organization. Thank you. So these are very good and pertinent questions that you have raised. You have touched the live wire, Gautam. My esteemed co-panelists like Rajiv, Soumya, and Abhishek have brought in very good topics. Let me start off with a very basic. We negotiate contracts, as you said. The real challenges lies on the contracts post execution. In many contracts, we have agreed to many clauses, but how do we keep a tab of those requirements? For example, let me give you an example of non-solicitation clause. As an organization, when client pushes some non-solicitation clause to you, what do? We don't have an option but to agree to that, especially when it is a quarter-end revenue recognition period. You simply agree to it. Take a deviation approval to the maximum and agree to it. But let me understand from anyone, do we really have a control of which all companies we have agreed for such non-solicitation? How do we monitor that? How do we take control of this? So I'm just giving you an example. There are many such clauses which we have agreed on SLA. So SLA we agree for, say, 90%, 95%. So if you have a hosting partner, for instance, the hosting partner, do they give you such back-to-back SLAs? So these are some of the criticalities. So this is where the contract audit perspective comes in, contract compliance comes in, who is the owner, and very pertinent questions about are we able to retrieve these contracts? What are the limitation of liability that we have agreed for each of the clients, or we go hunting on the document once there is a dispute or a litigation comes up? So the traditional system of managing the contracts, there were and there are still many challenges which we have to overcome, and hopefully in future contract AI or the AI system will be able to override these challenges. Gautam.
Yeah, I had another anecdote on the same lines. I was talking to a general counsel of a company. So he said, we give certain most favored client pricing to certain customers, right? But then there is no control over it. So how do I manage the governance? Is there a tool that can be built which can help them with governance once they have signed something to the, it's very similar to the example that you gave.
Benchmarking, most favored pricing. These are some of the major clauses that we blindly agree during the contract signatures.
Then it leads to a whole plethora of governance issues that you need to manage through the organization, if you have signed such a contract, absolutely from there. Also, can you touch about some audit issues and if the tool is actually helping you with audit, that you're using? Because audit is a big process in an organization like yours.
Yeah, Gautam, that's again a very good question. Audit has always been a challenge for any organization. Be it internal audit, statutory audit, the finance team or the CFO will always sit on your head asking that, the audit has to happen. And, there are so many questions that the auditors raise. What are the agreements on which we are agreed for a limitation of liability? Because, the auditors will also keep a tab on the insurance, the business insurance that are required on contracts.
Right.
So what are the contracts on which we have agreed for a limitation of liability over the contract value? What are the contracts where we have twice the contract value as limitation of liability? So there are many questions that are raised. What are the for what are the agreements where we have a neutral jurisdiction? So there are many queries that the auditors raise, and we at that point of time have to, if we don't have a tool to identify or pick out these particular clauses from the contract, then we are in for a big trouble. So
Absolutely.
Managing the auditors, providing the particular data required by the auditors to mitigate the risk, that is the real challenges as a GC that we face in a corporate world. And again, there are events when at a particular milestone you have to receive the payment, because the auditors are very particular at what milestone you get a payment. So how do you keep track of those milestones? What are the payment terms? When is the interest due on overdue payment? You agree sometimes you push interest rate on overdue payment, but do you really implement those interest rates? So how do you keep a tab? If you don't charge those interests, why have you not charged?
Absolutely.
If you without charging the interest rate on the customer, why have you not charged? These are some of the uncomfortable questions that we face from the auditors when the audit happens. Gautam?
In fact, it actually was a question posed from one of the CEOs that I was working with. He said that in every contract, we have a payment term and a credit term, but there is no means to enforce the credit term. So while I might have spent hours negotiating the 30, 60, 90 days, there's no system to actually enforce that the credit is collected. So there is a lot of money left on the table. And now this leads to a question that I wanted to ask all the panels and move to the second section, is understanding the ROI of the tools that you are implementing. Most of the CLM tools that has been built over the last 2 decades, they focus primarily on the pre-signature part, get the contract executed and signed. But very little thought, a very superficial thought has been given on the post-contract management. And Soumya also alluded to that. How do you actually manage? Who's responsible? Are we actually complying? Is the governance happening? Are we meeting the SLAs? Are the payment terms? Is the renewal happening in time? What kind of tools are required to support such an ecosystem within the enterprise? Because I would expect that to be the larger problem of the enterprise, is managing the SLA, the compliance across all the contracts that has been executed. Soumya, can I come back to you and ask that question? What would be a good solution for you in terms of managing the post-contract SLAs, obligations, compliance, payment terms, from that perspective? And is AI something which can be helpful in that area?
Yep. So thanks, Gautam. I think this is a problem that kind of every organization faces. So for us, it's really important that we have all those kind of really mapped in the tool itself of who are the people responsible. Say, for example, if for delivery, the delivery team is responsible. In the CLM tool itself, there should be a tagging in the final obligation management that really comes out in terms of the tasks are defined of who is responsible for what. And then that person is then to report back into the tool. So for example, if there is a there is an invoice that needs to be raised within 30 days or 60 days, then the respective finance person should be tagged to that obligation and should then go ahead and raise an invoice within those particular period of time. Or say, for example, if an interest is due and payable because the client has not paid, and given all the CLM tools are now currently integrated with the CRM tools, it should be linking back that yes, the payment has not been received. Now the interest should be charged, and it should be automatically throwing the alerts that yes, the payment is due, payment not received. Now the interest needs to be charged. So go back, raise an invoice for an interest. And then as in when the person complies with that particular requirement, say for example, a data privacy requirement, or say a data security requirement, or a cyber security requirement of say a particular kind of infrastructure being in place. So the particular person, like an infosec team, reports back that yes, they have complied with, because it's not only the internal audits that happen, it's also the client audit that happens.
Absolutely.
Which will demonstrate that yes, everything is there in one place, because otherwise what is happening is if everything is scattered all over the organization, there is nothing there in an organization which is sitting at one place, giving end-to-end picture of what this contract entire life cycle is, and not just the signing part, but also what is happening post after that. Because if the client relationship is say for 5 years or 10 years, you need to see a clear trail in around it of how we have gone ahead and complied, so that if you have any issues even with the client at a later stage, you can show them the compliance that they have done in around the contracts. I think that really becomes critical whenever we are signing for any kind of contract. And what we have seen in the market is the tools that are there currently are not addressing that problem primarily. As you mentioned, they're only addressing the first part. The other is just at a very surface level and not really solving this problem.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, and it's a very good segue to the question is what is really an enterprise grade system? Something which scales for you, something which integrates, something where you can go back in time and get the answers that you want. Very secure system, because I'm guessing security for all the contracts or any kind of documents for any organization of is prime importance. And most of the times a generic LLM fails that test because people don't want to share their documents with the world, with the entire world. They want to keep the documents within the comfort of their enterprise access, from that perspective. Can you take a minute or two to just explain what your expectations would be from an enterprise grade product and a legal grade product, especially AI, when it comes to AI?
For an enterprise grade, I think it should be integratable, because I think organizations are using multiple tools within. So it should be easily integratable. The second, what we have seen is the implementation phase itself is really, really long, which kind of becomes a problem than a solution. Like you take 9 months to implement a system, and then integration is another challenge. The whole process itself fails. The third third problem that we have seen is it's not user friendly. If the system that you're using is not user friendly from day one, and you have to go ahead and give multiple trainings for the users to use the system, it's just a failed implementation, because user adoption has not really happened. I think data privacy and ethical AI is another piece that is really, really becoming important whenever we are talking about the enterprise grade solution. Because if data privacy is not inbuilt into the system, you are having issues. I think you will land into problems not only with the clients, but with the regulatory authorities at a later stage.
Absolutely.
And then if we are using AI, then that should be something in the space of ethical AI, not just AI, because biases needs to be removed if we are using AI. So I think those are the things that we look from a very from a lens, and also cybersecurity. I think all organizations are nowadays really susceptible to cybersecurity threats. So cybersecurity really becomes important when we are implementing an enterprise grade solution.
Absolutely. Let me ask the next question to Abhishek. Yeah, Abhishek, you are moving at the speed of light with Zepto.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you want your enterprise systems to work? How do you want your legal accuracy to be, in terms of the systems that you deploy in the system, either today or something that you wish?
So thanks, Gautam. So I think any solutions which we will sort of launch should be customizable, right? Cannot be a generic solution. I'll have to go back to my systems, like Soumya mentioned, check all the ERPs, etc. Whether this proposed solution can be integrated to everyone, and it should be user friendly. It goes without saying. Teams should not face any issues. And when I'm talking about teams, it is the non-legal teams. Sort of raise the request on the tool for any legal assistance which they need. So it has to be a 360-degree solution. And the second and most important thing, which I think the Indian legal system is evolving, is proofreading and formatting capabilities, right? While we will all think that these are all minor issues, maybe the bracket is open, bracket is not closed, capitalized terms are not defined properly or are used inconsistently. But when it comes to litigation, all these terms and the way these terms are defined becomes very critical. So I would want my solution to have the proofreading and formatting error tracking capabilities, right? I would also want my tool to have a risk categorization capability. When I talk about maybe a risk categorization, I'll just take an example of, say, uh, a lock-in period, right? Traditionally, we would not be sort of agreeing to a lock-in clause in the agreement, but there are 10 parties with whom we have such arrangements. So my tool should have that capability to categorize that contract as a high-risk contract, so that whenever there is any discussion or a dashboard which is presented to the management, we have a very critical view as to how do we move forward in terms of this contract. So the risk categorization is also something which the modern AI solutions provider should have in their offerings, so that they give a 360-degree solutions to the company. I mean, clause suggestions, clause analysis, contract analysis is all something my fellow panelists have already covered. But I think if uh, you know the emphasis is given to usage of AI, where the legal professionals are given a lot of suggestions, right? For example, which reduces their maybe working hours from maybe say 6 hours to 30 minutes in closing a particular contract. I will be more than happy to sort of include that in our team and in our legal systems as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Abhishek. I'll ask my next question to Rajiv. Rajiv, with LG, you are working with a lot of manufacturing partners. Your problem, I'm
Right.
guessing, your problem, I think, will be slightly different in terms of working across partners, especially in the supply chain side of it. Can you elaborate on specific problems that you are facing and the kind of ROI you expect from the tool?
The challenges which I have previously talked at, there are traditional way, there are a lot of challenges are there. And in fact, there is a need. Just Satish Kumar was also talking that during the internal audit, many things we have to see: limitation of liability, renewal process, all these things we have to see. Suppose we are having now the multiple chain of suppliers, not only direct suppliers, we are also having sub suppliers, right? Where we have to manage all these things. And now managing and having the back-to-back agreements and the traditional way is a real challenge, real challenge actually, right? Still, if we are, like Abhishek was talking, preparing the master file of the risk analysis in Excel, right? Where we are monitoring what are the liabilities and what are the suppliers obligations. So there are multiple stakeholders are there, and the challenges are too many. in fact. So from AI, I am assuming and I'm thinking that we are going towards that AI can lead to increased productivity and efficiency in managing contracts by simplifying the entire CLM cycle. And in fact, it can reduce the demand of resources required because as scalability has no impact on AI tool, right? Human is having that limitation there, but
Very true.
AI can deal with very huge data which is involved right now, right? Then of course the maintaining in Excel file or master risk file, and it's a better risk management, and then we can also use the analytical capabilities of AI, right? So that AI can access and manage risk proactively, and in fact the important information they can give in reports to our sales team, supplier team, procurement team. They can give on these certain inputs to the team which they have to take care, right? Of course then the time management has become more effective with these things. But having said this, I still feel, although you have not asked me specifically, but I still feel there are certain, by Soumya was saying, there's some ethical issues are there. Then there is the limitation part, right? I'm jumping on the next thing. There is the limitations of AI, which we are having the apprehension. So I would like that AI should take care of that aspect also. The limitations are that in while kind of human errors are there, then we can fix the responsibility. But AI, there is no one person whom to fix, where we can fix the responsibility, right? Then it should be deal with the because the algorithms which the software is being developed, right? What are the inputs? They are embedded in that algorithm, because of that the output is coming, right? At that time the legal has to be involved in that process, so that the outcome can be. So there's a gap, right? Like Soumya was saying, there's a gap. Actually it has to be implemented from the first day, otherwise, and we have to be integrated at the very initial stage. Legal has to be involved at very initial. Only then it can be very fruitful. Otherwise it has its own the accountability and responsibility issues are there. So I think there is a need to have the striking balance between the automation and human expertise, so that the generative AI is more accurate, legal, and aligned with the needs of the organizations.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rajiv. Satish, if I can come to you and ask the same question, how would you define an enterprise grade system or a legal grade system? And what are your expectations from such a system?
Thank you, Gautam. So I think for legal counsels, as business enablers, the prime breadwinners is contract review. So that is where the maximum time happens. For any, say, multi-million-dollar contract, say $100 million, $150 million contract, will take at least, I'm talking of minimum, say 1 week to 10 days, and the sales team will always sit on your head asking for an immediate review or maybe overnight review or 2 days review. So this is a main challenge that we have as business enablers for the organization. So I want my enterprise software first to help out in the contract review process, highlighting all for any organization, I'll tell you, the risk tolerance level will be different from one organization to another organization. So my CLM tool should be adaptable to identify the risks that are there in my organization. They should be able to identify the particular risk in my contract and throw up that risk to me as a deviation immediately. So that helps me in identifying those risks in a contract and then addressing it appropriately. Either I go negotiating it back to the client, or if required, take a deviation approval and close it off. So this is one of the important tools that I will need in my enterprise software. Apart from it, I will also need, say, on IPR, on dispute and litigation. These are some of the important, I will say, enterprise software tool that should address any organization.
Thank you, Satish. We'll now do some future gazing, and I'll ask the
If you
first.
don't mind, I just want to add on to what everyone said. I think
Sure.
hallucination is a problem that we have seen with the AI solutions. I think that kind of makes any general counsel a bit jittery about using AI solution. So if the product or a solution is not hallucinating and the accuracy is kind of guaranteed, even 99.99%, I think that will give some kind of comfort. Otherwise, we had cases in US like Matt versus Aviana, where a case was submitted which was actually not even a case in reality. I think if
Yes.
accuracy is a concern which is addressed and hallucination is kind of solved to the maximum extent, that will give some kind of comfort to the general counsels wanting to use AI in their organization.
Sure. Hallucination is a word which has caught, a lot and got a lot of skepticism around it, especially with technologies like ChatGPT coming on board, where large language models and documents have been processed. And, the models itself are creating the hallucinated scenarios. But when it comes to the corporate legal, I'm not talking of litigation, but just contracts at this point in time. And if you have a specialized LLM with guardrails, there's zero hallucination.
Yeah, yeah. So when the large language models are built on your organization contracts or the documents, then the possibility of hallucination is reduced or minimized to an extent. And I think
Absolutely.
that will give some kind of comfort to the general counsels.
Correct. So it's very important to know when the hallucination happens and what are the technology safeguards to make sure that you mentioned another good point, which is the ethical biases, of the LLM, because you as a legal counsel don't want any biases to exist in the algorithms that you are deploying for your system, from that perspective. Both these are very important points, and I'll quickly get into the third section so I can we can start defining the ideal systems that you'd want for your organizations based on your experience. So one of the points you mentioned, Soumya, I'll come to you. Is one of the point that you had mentioned is when we talk of AI, is it really AI? It takes 7, 8, 9 months to deploy a system. My layman understanding of AI is that AI should learn.
Yeah.
Today, if you look at into any enterprise, most of the enterprise departments have some kind of tool. Legal is the one which is still trying to catch up, in terms of tools. And my sense is the software developers have missed the boat in identifying what actually helps legal. So the adoption has been very, very poor, in the legal department in terms of the tools. I am optimistic that with AI coming in, the AI will be able to go live within a week with your system, because the moment you train it with 10 documents, 20 documents, it actually builds a playbook for you and goes live with instant gratification for you. Today, most of the systems, you have to learn the system. You have to learn their screens, you have to learn their workflows, then you have to train the organization. And after 9 months, you'll learn whether the system is actually working for you or you are working for the system,
Yeah.
from there, right? And in most cases, what I have understood is you are working for the system. System is not actually working for you. So when you are trying to evaluate any system, you have to ask these very basic questions. Is it learning? What's the error rate? What will it do for me in terms of ROI? So today, let's say I take 100 hours to complete something. Can it do it in 10 hours? So give me a 90% efficiency on the process, because those would be the questions which actually make the ROI material to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, otherwise the systems are of not much value. I'm not trying to say that systems have not improved. Systems have improved over the last 20 years, but the possibility that is there with AI is humongous at this point in time.
Yeah. No, I clearly agree with you. I think the statement which you made clearly resonates, whether you are working for the system or the system is working for you. And generally, what I've seen users saying is, oh, I have to actually go and punch in another set of information, which I've already done. So why I need to do it? It should
Yeah.
automatically throw out the result, and why I have to do it again and again, the same very thing. So it's not really adding any value to my work. So I think what you are saying is absolutely correct. The other thing what is happening, Gautam, what I've seen is that people say, okay, yeah, their product is AI, but actually, is it really AI? Something that we should be learning how to identify. As you mentioned, that AI is something which should be self-learning. And if it's self-learning and is learning and improving over a period of time, then actually it's a AI. Otherwise, it might be a fancy version of Excel, and it's just being shown in a dashboard form, which might not actually be an AI. So I think we as general counsel should be able to understand and gauge, is it really an AI, and how is it really improving in our productivity and efficiency? One of the main things is like turnaround times. Like for our organization, given we are a services-based organization, for us, we really, really want to turn around our contracts really fast, because that will help us in revenue recognition and so on and so forth. So I think that aspect is really, really critical of how to go ahead and see, is your product really implementable and user friendly at the same point in time, with a very minimum training. I'm not saying no training, but something which a person can maybe just see a video and then start doing things on their own. I think
Absolutely.
that will be really, really important for an AI to be adopted by legal professionals.
Absolutely. That's a very important criteria. I'll come back to you again, Soumya, but let me ask the same question to Satish, and get his perspectives. AI is a continuum. So when you look at the CLM system, there are multiple functions, right from pre-signature to storage and virtual data rooms, and then post-signature processes. When someone says AI, we should ask the next level of question, is saying, what is the AI doing in each of these sections for me? Even in the case of litigation. Satish, if you can elaborate on that and say, how do you know that a system is AI, and how do you find that out?
So let me start off by saying two things I liked in the discussion recently that you said. Are we working for AI or AI is working for us? That is something that is really very well. And the other thing that I liked, what Soumya said is, AI should not be a glorified Excel. These are two basic things that we should face. Yes. Let me tell you that AI, one is, it should have copies of all the document. It should be able to we should be able to retrieve the document and then deep dive into that particular document on that particular clause, and also it should be able to throw back to us on regular compliance. That is very important. If a particular SLA is missed out, is your particular requirement is missed out, there should be a constant follow-up from the AI. It should help us in compliance process, contract compliance process in particular, if you want me to talk. And if there is a dispute litigation, and what are the SLAs that I have missed out, which the particular client is coming to me asking that you have missed out this. What is the turnaround time for the SLAs? The AI should help out. The AI should help me out in my work. It should not be that I should keep hunting on various documents. That is precisely what I'm looking for. If I'm going into a litigation, what are the jurisdictions that are required? What is the dispute resolution process? If there is a dispute resolution process, first there should be a senior level discussion between the team. First there should be a steer com. So it should make my work comfortable, Gautam. Otherwise, what is the use of having AI? So I think that is where the basic thing lies.
Absolutely. Abhishek, let me come to you. and just paint a picture of the pre-signature side, and let me know if this is something which will make sense to you in terms of AI.
Yeah.
Pre-signature is the process where the contracts templates are getting negotiated between two parties, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It typically is very stressful and gets discussed um, by multiple parties, multiple iterations, collaboration, takes few months, lots of escalations, and finally gets to a signature or execution,
Yeah.
in any kind of organization.
Yeah.
Now, let me introduce the notion of an organization playbook. And I think this thing came up in the discussion today, is what is that organization standard? I think Satish also elaborated to that, is what is my risk tolerance? What is my clause language? What is that I like to use as words in my clauses? Has the AI learned that? If the AI has learned that, what is my risk tolerance? And can it deploy it across any new or old contract that comes my way? Then I am automating a lot of my tasks, and let AI do it for you
Yes.
from that perspective. So in that context, today, if you actually buy a CLM tool, it takes 6, 9 months because they will come and deploy templates, they will come and deploy collaboration, workflow authorizations, and go through 3 months of training. And the calendar elapsed time is 9 months. What if all of this happens within a week? You say, here are the 10 contracts that I have done, which is the best of the case. Please figure out the playbook and not deploy that playbook into every contract that comes my way.
Yes.
Suddenly your life is very simplified,
Yes.
from that perspective. What did you think of such a system, from that perspective?
No, absolutely agreed. I think in terms of having a playbook, and when you say that AI should be constantly learning, right? So we would need a solution where the language is understood. They are not just dependent on if the words of the particular clause are changed and hence there is a risk or something, right? There might be two clauses which are essentially saying the same thing, which AI should recognize, and those all things should be considered when we are actually designing a playbook. And that will make the lives of the legal professionals like us very, very simple. And lot of time will be saved when you talk about bringing efficiencies. The most important thing is also getting the approvals from the finance, right? They will help to sort of bring those efficiencies, those ROIs, and present it to the CFO so that he can clearly distinguish the time which was being taken by the existing CLM tools versus the proposed AI solution which we are bringing to the table via playbook, right? And it would make the entire legal team very efficient. Having said that, I just firmly believe that while AI should always be a part of the legal team, it should always be treated as an additional team member. It should not be making the decisions
Very good
for
point.
if yeah, like you said, that are you working for the system or your system is working for you? If you are only reliant on what your AI generates, the language which generates, and which might not work in a particular case. So application of mind from the legal professionals like us should always be there, while AI should be an helping force, but it should not be made a decider or a leader of the group. Is my limited submission to the
Absolutely in agreement. Absolutely in agreement. I think AI should work for the GC, and
yeah.
that's the uh, core of the message. I'll ask one question to Amit, and then we'll take questions. One question to Rajiv, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Rajiv, today, there is a notion of data rooms and virtual data rooms where all the contracts are stored. There are two problems that I see there. One is contracts are individual documents. There is a master services agreement. Then there are addendums which come over the next 5, 6 years, and addendums and SOWs of various kind. very few CLMs have the ability to see all of them as a logical document. In your experience, do you see that as a real problem? And the second question I'll ask as well is, today, if you want to ask a question like, what is my exit criteria from this contract? You will typically ask, go open the document, try to figure out, go to that point. But if AI would allow you to query any document just like you would query a person, won't that be of help to you? Any kind of question that you can ask a document and it comes back with an answer without you having to even opening the document at any point in time. What did you think of such a system?
I think it's a it's a situation where every GC would like to have, that instead of saying it to the juniors that kindly go and evaluate the agreement, you are having the AI in your control and you are just saying, okay, just tell me what are the drawbacks and what are the good points in this. And it will be a blessing in that, I should say, right? Because these kind of problems we are facing in a day in and day out. Certain for example, AI should also learn from our contracts, which we have already done, right? That is the first aspect. Second aspect is there are certain things which the new investment is coming, right? Suppose we are now time of for the solar project management, right? It's altogether a new concept, new technology will be there. Then the 47 pages contract is there and we have to do it very fast. Then that AI should have the capability, because it's not the on the history or background, it has to give its own views on the global perspective, right? What AI is telling us, what are the loopholes in that agreement, where we should have the clarity of thought on these things. So that or maybe we are a startup, then also there AI should help us in drafting or maybe in highlighting the risk in our agreements. Right. So that's the thing. And another thing which you have just told, there are certain, so while integrating AI with the contract management, there are certain factors which are very, very useful actually, which we actually should see, which every AI system should have, that establishing the clear guidelines and the protocols for using AI in contract management, which has what are the limitations, what are the potential risks are there, that has to be highlighted. Then of course GCs have to be collaborate with AI expert and technologists. We are from the legal background, although I am a tech expert little bit, but still I need the help of the AI and AI technologies, right? Where and then of course, then if it's not that we have implemented system and it is foolproof. No, we have to have the continuous learning and adaptation from AI and legal can help further in leveraging AI contracts and keep up pace with the ever-changing contracts. If you will allow me just 2 minutes, I have written one poem on this AI contract and ROI. If you allow, I will just read few lines. So in the halls of law where words entwine, AI join hands with contract to refine. Sift through clauses, pages untold, AI keen's eye, a treasure to be behold. Contract management, a meticulous quest. AI steps in, aiding the legal crest. Streamlining reviews, agreements align, efficiency reigns, a ROI so fine. Cases deciphered in rapid accord, AI prowess, legal notes unmold. Time saved, errors abate, investments thrives, a prosperous fate. In law's domain, where rules entwine, AI and ROI are alliance divine. Contracts managed with AI's embrace, legal fields thrive in this digital space. So I have tried to sum up all these things in a short form.
Beautiful.
You may go ahead.
Satish, this question is to you. And this question is from Badri Narayan. You mentioned about reinforcement of non-solicitation clause. Even the fundamentals like NDA term and validity are seldom overlooked prior to sharing confidential information to recipients in most corporates. How do you handle such a scenario? We have signed the NDA, but
Yeah, Badri, that's a very practical question that you have asked. We have signed a NDA. We have NDA most of the time. We just go across the table, sign it, and share the document. But do we again look into the NDA? When does the NDA expire? What are the obligations under in the NDA? So how do we keep a tab? Typically speaking, this is where my AI should help out. What are the obligations? Where are the restrictions? Where we agree that, when you share a document, there should be a confidential stamp. But do we really do that, Badri? We should, as leaders in an organization, as thought leaders in an organization, ensure that we comply as per the agreement. If we are sharing some document, confidential document with our client, then ensure as per the NDA, what have we agreed? Is it required that there should be a confidential stamp? Then you should share it as per the confidential stamp. Or if it is going across the digitized format, ensure that it is clearly mentioned, tagged as confidential. That is how you will be able to manage. That is how you will be on the safe side or the right hand side of your contract law. And same applies to your non-solicitation. You should have a central pool of repository with the help of AI, which will help you in identifying which are all the non-solicited or which are the companies on which you are on which you have to ensure that you should not solicit their employees. For how long you should not solicit? During the term of the contract, or there is an obligation even post expiry of the contract. These are some of the help that I will require from my AI tool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Satish. I have an interesting question. And there are lots of questions coming. So thanks for sending the questions our way. If we are not able to answer the questions during this panel, we'll still make sure that we get these questions answered and have it sent to you. Next question I'm reading is, can a small mid-size, say up to 200 crore, should go for a legal consultant or any AI-enabled software for routine contracts management? What is more affordable? This question is by Path Trivedi. Anyone can take this question. I think.
Yeah, so I would like to go, Gautam.
Yeah, please, Soumya, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it depends upon the tool. I think more than whether you need a consultant or a tool will do, it depends upon the tool. If tool is something which kind of solves all the problems that we are mentioning, I think you should definitely go for a tool because it's something which will be long-term sustainable and will be much more effective and productive. Consultant might not be scalable in the long term, while the tool is scalable in the long term, because while you are a 200 crore company right now, you will be definitely be 2,500 crore company in future. And a tool will have the repository of all the contracts, all the obligations, and so on and so forth. So definitely, I would vote for a tool rather than a consultant. But yes, we should be very mindful of what kind of tool we are choosing.
Thank you,
But
Soumya.
I beg to differ, Soumya, here, because I would like to say that the legal person cannot be diminished like this. So that even if we are having the tool, there is a legal ability to handle that tool also is required. So I think they need to strike a balance between the two.
Yeah, so Rajiv, it's routine contracts. If something which is there already built in the playbook, which is there, and that's the reason I said it depends upon the kind of tool. So if you have a playbook which kind of is customized to your organization way of working and working on contracts and standard contracts, I think tool should work. But yeah, if it's complex, then definitely we need a legal person.
So I think there are pros and cons, Gautam. I feel there are pros and cons for both. But
Yes.
Generally, it is that councils cannot be replaced by AI. That is what I would like to end with. Councils can never be replaced with AI. It is councils who has to rule the AI. AI has to help the councils. So if it is between council and AI, it is always councils.
Always council, right?
I think
do
it's
agree.
not one over the other. I think both will coexist, Satish. I don't think so. In any manner, AI will replace. I think it will coexist.
It has to be an additional team member.
Yes. Now, so this is fantastic. So let me take the next question. This is from Manu Arora. How do you strike a balance between automation and homemade processes? What top thing should one keep in mind?
I think if I may take this question.
Sure, Abhishek. Yeah.
So I think the tool which you are choosing, right? that needs to be fully customizable to your requirements. You cannot have a same head which is being showed by a particular solutions provider uh, be fully implemented in a way it is being shown to you, right? It has to change the way the organization demands. But when it comes to striking a balance in terms of manual processes versus automation, you just need to check the kind of investments you are making in the tool and the returns you are getting, right? Uh, for example, if your legal person is spending 6 hours in evaluating a contract and having that tool makes that contract review time coming down to only 1 hour, right? That significantly increases your in-house team to manage multiple things at one time, right? So, you need to strike a balance uh, uh, in terms of what is required and what is not, what is the cost of investment, and how eventually the ROI is playing to play a very important role in terms of your decision whether to go for a tool. If yes, then how much should we invest in the tool, and what should be the processes which should be automated and what should be not.
Wonderful. Let me ask the next question. This is from Shreya Gupta from Chandlok and Mahajan. She has been working with AI and ML sector for a couple of years, and what she has realized that AI ML products are being built by engineers and analysts without much assistance from the legal professionals. Her assertion is if the legal input is not there, then the product which is ultimately coming out is not suitable for the legal domain, or not right for the legal domain. Anyone has any comments to that?
Yeah, I think that's very true. A AI tool which is built for counsels has to be built by the lawyers. So naturally, a person who is not a lawyer or who is not a counsel who is building a AI tool will not be able to address the nitty-gritties or the issues faced by the counsel. So it has to be lawyers who are to build the AI tool naturally.
Yes, so I'll say it should be by the lawyers for the lawyers of the lawyers.
Perfect.
Especially with that tech understanding, and you can't, while we are all lawyers, we can't be tech experts. So there has to be a marriage in some shape and form where both of them come together. So we have a holistic tool serving the purpose and not just a tool for the heck of it.
With that question being answered, let me thank the panelists and all the audience, for a very engaging and informative session. As a panelist, I'll probably reach out to you, get a summary, and also send a summary to all the audience. And what are the right questions to ask on the tools that they are trying to evaluate or trying to deploy in their enterprise. But thank you all once again. I think we had a very engaging session, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
ET
thanks
as well.
everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, for hosting this for
Everyone.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, ET.